So let's talk about a tool called CORTEX. The whole idea behind it is actually pretty simple, but it's also incredibly powerful. It all comes down to one word: context. You know, in software development, context is the one thing that can change literally everything.
And that brings us to a question that I'm betting feels really familiar. You're using an AI coding assistant, right? It's fast, it's impressive, but why does it feel like it has amnesia? Why does it seem to forget everything you were just talking about like a minute ago?
Well, because it does. It really does. Every single time you start a session, it's a blank slate. There's no memory of the last file you worked on, no real understanding of your project's architecture, and absolutely no concept of your team's rules or best practices. And what that means is you become the only quality check. And let's be real, that just doesn't scale.
You know, this whole frustration with AI tools, it's really just the tip of the iceberg. It points to a much deeper, much more universal struggle, one that's shared by both development and quality teams every single day.
And this slide, man, it just perfectly captures the two sides of that same coin. We're talking about a multi-billion-dollar problem here. Engineers are spending, up to 60% of their time not creating new things, but just debugging and reworking old stuff, all while wondering, is my safety net of tests actually going to catch anything? Meanwhile, QA is drowning in thousands of tests, but so many of them are flaky, they erode trust, and those coverage metrics, they often feel like they're lying. At the end of the day, both sides are asking the exact same question: how do we know this is actually good? And that's where this famous quote from W. Edwards Deming really hits home. Quality isn't just one person's job. It's not just the QA team's problem. It's a systemic thing. And if you want to solve it, you need a systemic solution that's woven right into the fabric of how you build things.
And that systemic solution? Well, that brings us right back to CORTEX. It's a system that was designed from the ground up to have what all the other tools are missing: memory and context.
At the heart of that memory system is something called LENS. It stands for Language, Examination, Navigation, and Synthesis. The best way to think about it is like a sensory system for your entire code base. Before you even type a single character, LENS has already read your whole workspace. It understands your code, your libraries, your patterns. It synthesizes all that knowledge so you can navigate everything with total comprehension.
So what's the big takeaway here? This is the answer to that whole AI amnesia problem we started with. With LENS, your context doesn't start at 0, it can't. It's always at 100% right from the very first keystroke.
And we're not just talking about some surface-level scan either. This is all powered by what's called the Intelligence Diamond. This is a massive knowledge base with over 140 curated files packed with best practices across 15 different engineering domains. And it uses more than 350 specialized reasoning engines, all working across 3 tiers of intelligence to give you these incredibly deep strategic insights.
Okay, so that's the what. Now for the fun part. How does this actually change the game in your day-to-day workflow? Because this isn't about giving you yet another tool to manage. It's about making quality something that's engineered in, not just bolted on at the end.
And this slide is the perfect example. CORTEX doesn't just, suggest you follow test-driven development. It enforces it as a core rule. You write the failing test first, period. Then you write the code to make it pass, and then you refactor. That red-green refactor cycle isn't a choice. It's part of the infrastructure. And this idea of engineering best practices right into your workflow, it doesn't stop with TDD, not even close. It extends across a whole suite of tools that live right where you work. I mean, we're talking about over 40 different tools that all use what's called the Model Context Protocol, which lets them deeply understand your code. You've got everything from automated code reviews and threat modeling to things like documentation ingestion and even multi-stack debugging. And the best part, it's all running right inside VS Code. No setup, no separate servers, it just works.
So that's the world for the engineer. It's a huge shift. But what about for quality engineers? How does this change the game for them? Well, it flips the entire conversation from just counting tests to actually quantifying your confidence.
See, CORTEX doesn't just give you a simple coverage number. It scores your tests across 5 absolutely critical dimensions. First up, coverage breadth. That's how much code is tested. Then, mutation resistance. How good are your tests at actually finding bugs? Third is assertion density. Are your checks strong and meaningful? Fourth, edge case coverage. Are you testing the weird boundary conditions? And finally, performance regression. Did your change slow things down? This gives you a true multidimensional quality score, not just some number that makes you feel good.
On top of that, CORTEX identifies these things called golden tests. And trust me, they're exactly what they sound like. These are the crown jewels, the tests that protect your most critical business logic. CORTEX then puts an architectural shield around them, making sure they can't be accidentally broken or bypassed. So how does it make sure all this actually gets done? With something called the convergence gate. Think of this as the ultimate quality enforcer. It doesn't just scan once and hand you a report. No way. It creates a relentless loop. It detects an issue, you fix it, and it immediately rescans over and over and over again. So, picture this. The gate runs its first scan on the code, and bang, it finds 15 violations. The work isn't done, not by a long shot, because it keeps that detect, fix, rescan loop going until you hit this beautiful number 0. This whole idea is called sweep completeness. It means you can't just cherry pick the easy fixes and call it a day. Partial quality is a failure. The suite is either 100% healthy or you're not done yet. So when you put all these pieces together, the context, the enforcement, the deep analysis, what do you get? You get this huge fundamental shift. You stop reacting, you stop debugging, and you start, well, building again.
For you, the engineer, it's like having a partner with a perfect memory. CORTEX remembers all the complex architectural details you can't possibly keep in your head, and it enforces the best practices you know you should be doing, especially when you're under pressure. And for you in QA, that test suite stops being a source of anxiety and becomes living, trustworthy documentation. Your coverage metric finally becomes what it was always supposed to be: quantifiable confidence.
It really all boils down to this classic philosophy from the great Kent Beck. Make it work, make it right, make it fast. CORTEX is a system that's literally engineered to help your team achieve all three, and in that exact order.
At the end of the day, that's the mission. That's the whole point. CORTEX is designed to get you out of the weeds of debugging and back to the work you actually want to be doing, building amazing things.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to chew on. What would actually change for your team, for your product, for your customers, if quality wasn't something you checked for at the end, but was something that was built into every single keystroke right from the start?